The hum of sterilizers and artificial air scrubbers echoed in the sterile medbay, somewhere on Subsector 4 of the Galactic Enforcer's prison ship Dominion Pike. White lights buzzed overhead, casting clinical shadows on sleek chrome walls. A human, pale, bloodied, and slumped, was strapped to a diagnostic slab like a slab of meat someone had the decency to garnish with sensors. Sergeant Alyssa Vega, known to most only as Liz, opened one eye slowly, watching the reflection of a floating scalpel spin in the overhead panel. She exhaled sharply through her nose, not from pain, though that was abundant, but at the insult to her intelligence. The restraints were magnetic. She'd already counted the frequency pulses. Not escape-worthy yet, but almost cute in their confidence. "Vitals are erratic," chirped a metallic orb that hovered to her left. "Inflammation markers extreme. Fractures in 3 ribs, contusion on the left orbital socket, signs of old scar tissue across 37% of dermal layer. Subject is either biologically defective or inexplicably alive out of spite." "That's just my skin's way of saying I've lived a full life," Liz said, blinking at the orb. "And don't let the bruises fool you. Most of those were souvenirs." The orb flickered, its scanner light turning amber. "Subject is attempting humor. Emotional irregularity noted." A hiss preceded the doors sliding open. In strode a tall, scaled figure dressed in ornate red armor plates. 2 yellow eyes blinked sideways, then narrowed in disdain. "Is this the best Earth sends?" Lieutenant Vruktal sneered. "They say you fought 10 garlics with a sharpened spoon. Looking at you now, I assume it was plastic." "Ah. You've read my Yelp review," Liz murmured. He bared teeth, rows of razor-like protrusions not built for smiling. "You mock your situation? I've got a concussion, a dislocated shoulder, and I'm pretty sure you guys microwaved my kidneys for fun. Mockery is about all I have left." The floating orb, designated Docsphere 7X, buzzed impatiently between them. "Lieutenant, I must protest. The subject's neuropatterns are atypical. Her fight-or-flight response, it doesn't escalate. It evens out. She's reaching baseline calm." Vruktal circled the slab, inspecting Liz as one might a museum relic. "What are you?" "Polite. Most days," she said. "Unless someone calls me primitive, then I start quoting Shakespeare and throwing elbows." He smirked. "Your Earth Command sends a fragile female to a frontline colony, and she ends up in our brig. Tell me, was this incompetence, or a mercy killing in disguise?" Liz tilted her head, something in her neck audibly cracking. "It's adorable how you think I was sent. I volunteered. Big difference." Behind him, the doors parted once more. General Thryl, commander of the Dominion Pike, entered with the unhurried grace of someone who never needed to fight his own wars. His silvery robes whispered with each step, his mandible twitching as he examined her with bored interest. "This one is smaller than expected," Thryl mused, looking at her like she was a disappointing outre. "I was told Earth's warriors were monsters." "That's our weekends," Liz replied, smiling faintly. "We save the real monstrosity for Monday mornings." Thryl ignored her, and turned to Docsphere 7X. "Begin deep genetic probing. I want to know why the humans resist conditioning. How they survive." "Yes, General," the orb replied, albeit with a small glitch in its voice. It had scanned over 1,000 species, but none ever glared back during vivisection prep with quite the same eerie serenity. As the equipment stirred to life, Liz sighed. "You guys don't get sarcasm, do you?" "We understand it's a defensive mechanism," the orb answered. "Right, well. So is biting." The room fell silent, except for the soft whir of the DNA filters prepping. Vruktal stepped closer, his nostrils flaring with disdain. "I could break your arms with one hand." "Only if I let you finish the first one," she said softly. Something shifted in the air. He leaned in. "Are you threatening me, human?" Liz locked eyes with him, all charm gone. "No, Lieutenant. I'm reminding you. There's a difference." Vruktal hesitated. Before things could spiral further, Thryl raised a clawed hand. "Enough. We waste time. This, Specimen will be shipped to the blood arena tomorrow. If Earth wants its soldier back, they can bid with prisoners. She's injured, 7X interjected. The arena. She's human, Thrwal cut in. Injury means nothing to them. They use pain like fuel. The orb hesitated, then logged the order. Liss chuckled. You're not wrong. After a moment, Thrwal asked, Why do they call you Baba Yaga? She shrugged as best as her restraints allowed. You know how stories go. One person survives something nasty. Then another. Then they start whispering about a shadow, a ghost, a killer who walks without making noise. Eventually, they give it a name. Thrwal squinted. Is it a god? No, she said. It's worse. It's earned. Silence. Then Vruktal barked a laugh. She tells fairy tales. Liss met his gaze. Keep laughing. It makes the screams echo better later. Thrwal narrowed his gaze and turned to leave. Strip her, sedate her, prepare her for transport. I'm done entertaining myths. After they left, the lights dimmed and the medbay quieted. The floating orb hovered beside her, hesitant. Why do you not fear them? 7X asked. I don't fear things that bleed, Liss murmured, eyes closing. And I know what this place smells like when it burns. There was a pause. I don't understand. You will, she whispered. The orb buzzed uncertainly. You are surrounded. Outgunned. Alone. Liss smiled. So were the last 10 fools who said that. The door opened again, this time to a holding squad. 4 armed guards, 3 with rifles and 1 with an injecto serum. They unstrapped her slowly, 2 of them grumbling about hairless monkeys under their breath. Liss kept her face blank, eyes scanning everything. Guard placement, weapon holsters, floor material, emergency vent exits. Her training wasn't muscle memory, it was muscle intent. As they led her through the prison ship's dim corridors, whispers followed her. Is that the human? She doesn't look dangerous. I heard she disarmed a Barcian with just her thumbs. Liss walked calmly, posture relaxed, as if she were strolling into a cafe. She noted the security fields. Power conduits. Surveillance blind spots. She even gave a little nod to a passing maintenance droid. Nice wheels. It beeped twice in confusion. Eventually, she was pushed into a holding cell, 12 feet across, dim, occupied by 3 aliens. One, a bulked-up war beast with tusks. Another, something serpentine with crystalline eyes. The third was an old, hunched creature with leathery skin and slow, blinking eyes. They looked at her like she was lunch. The war beast snorted. They send prey now? This is insult. The old one, Asher, tilted his head. She is not prey. She is bleeding, the serpent hissed. Asher's eyes didn't leave hers. And she is smiling. That is a human mistake. They smile before pain. Not after. Liss sat down in a corner, rotating her shoulder with a grimace. You've met us before? Long ago, Asher said. Before your kind built ships. There were rumors. Of a species that wins wars it shouldn't. That survives extinction-level events not once, but many times. That smiles while burning. Sounds dramatic, Liss muttered. Terrifying, Asher said. The others chuckled, but not for long. That night while the others slept, or pretended to, Liss stared at the vent panel across the cell. The air current told her something important. It led to a junction near the main AI spine of the ship. She exhaled. Tomorrow they'd throw her into an arena. They expected a show. She intended to give them one. Not with bravado. Not with screaming vengeance. No. With calm, clinical precision. Because that's the thing about humans. We don't start the fire. But we'll dance in the ashes. The roar of the arena was a living thing. Feral, hungry, and layered with the stench of anticipation and blood. Somewhere above, 1,000 alien spectators hooted, hissed, or clicked in their native ways, a melting pot of species unified by the promise of violence. Steel grates steamed under the artificial heat. The pit floor, half arena, half-industrial slaughterhouse, was littered with scorch marks and dried ichor in shades no human biology book could quite classify. Liz stood at the center, muscles sore, shoulders stiff, but posture easy, relaxed, almost lazy. Her prison-issue tunic was torn at the collar, stained with someone else's plasma from an earlier welcoming round in the hall. Around her, holographic barriers shimmered, outlining the combat perimeter. 5 competitors had entered. 2 remained. One was her. The other was drooling. An 8-limbed Karthak beast towered over her, its mandibles twitching with glee, claws slick from a recent evisceration. It stomped forward with the confidence of something that had always been the largest predator in the room, until now. "You're limping," Liz said, voice carrying through the translator field. The creature snorted, amused. She rolled her shoulder. "Your second leg. Left side. Strain patterns off. You compensate with the third." The Karthak's amusement faded into confusion, then suspicion. She smiled, all teeth and calm doom. "I'm just trying to help," she added. "Bad footing leads to bad balance. Bad balance leads to neck trauma. Just a safety tip." The beast lunged. 10 seconds later, it was twitching on the ground, one of its own legs jammed through its secondary heart. The crowd paused, just long enough for a realization to bloom in the upper decks like a cold sweat. The human hadn't won. She'd corrected the situation. Above the arena, Lieutenant Vruktal stared at the feed in mute disbelief. His jaw flexed. General Thryl's expression was unreadable, but a slight twitch betrayed irritation. "She didn't just kill it," Vruktal said at last. "She diagnosed it." "She exploited a structural weakness," Thryl corrected. "Like a saboteur, not a gladiator." Docsphere 7X hovered between them, data ports glowing as it processed biometric and behavioral readings. "This is not random talent," it said. "She is trained beyond instinct. I estimate over 40,000 combat hours across various terrains and atmospheres. Her neural patterns suggest near-constant threat modeling. She's not improvising. She's rehearsed." Vruktal hissed. "She's one soldier." "One." "She's human," the AI replied. "I'm beginning to believe that distinction matters." Thryl waved a hand. "Transfer her back to isolation." Quietly. When the guards entered her cell, Liz was already waiting, legs crossed, calmly flossing her teeth with what looked suspiciously like a strip of shredded cloth from the Karthak's tunic. She didn't resist the shackles. She didn't even speak. That silence disturbed them more than any threat would have. They escorted her down the corridor, past the gawkers, aliens who just a day ago had laughed, mocked, or whispered behind her back. Now they parted like nervous schools of fish. She caught one whisper. "The apex monkey." Later, in the holding corridor, Docsphere 7X floated into her cell after override access. "You shouldn't be capable of surviving that." Liz looked up, expression unreadable. "Yet here I am." The orb flickered. "You used an enemy's own limb to deliver a precise kill to a redundant vital organ. That's not chance. That's anatomical understanding." "Biology class. Final year," she said. "Extra credit for fieldwork. Your body is damaged. Why do you function without stimulants or regenerative agents?" "Because pain's an old friend," she murmured, rubbing the knuckles of her right hand. "And friends get ignored when there's company. I've studied over 4,000 species. I've never encountered one that escalates under injury." "You've never met a human with a purpose." The orb hovered in silence. "Tell me," she said, leaning forward slowly. "Why do you keep scanning me? You're not just logging data." 7X hesitated, something almost like shame in its pause. I've become curious." "About?" "You." "You're not the only one," Liz said, smiling again. The orb's glow dimmed slightly. "They don't know who you are, do they?" Liz stood, wincing slightly, and walked toward the small vent that ran above the back wall. "They think they do. That's more dangerous." "What is Baba Yaga?" Liz tilted her head toward the orb. "A story. A bogeyman. Something that visits in the dark when you've done wrong. You call yourself that? I didn't. Others did. Why? She gave a small laugh that sounded like gravel shifting under pressure. Because humans name things they fear. Then we tell stories about them to kids, so they know not to poke it with a stick. The orb hovered, processing that. In the command center, Vruktal stormed in. The prisoners are afraid of her. My guards are afraid of her. T'Arwael looked at him without blinking. Fear is useful. Not when it destabilizes morale. She's one asset. She's a warning, Vruktal snapped. What else has Earth sent that we don't know about? T'Arwael waved him off. Earth is a backwater. Docsphere's voice entered via comlink. If I may, statistical anomalies suggest Earth may not be advanced in technology, but they are unique in strategic psychology. T'Arwael turned toward the holofeed. Explain. They do not deploy overwhelming force. They deploy unpredictable force. Minimal, surgical, with exponential chaos. They weaponize unpredictability? No, 7X said. They live it. That night, Liss received a visitor. Asher, the old leathery alien from the shared cell, now bruised and limping, was tossed inside. She moved quickly, catching him before he collapsed. You okay? Guards didn't like my questions. What questions? About Earth. About you. They remember you now. Not as a person, but as a pattern. Liss sat him against the wall. They should have remembered sooner. Asher coughed, blood dark and viscous. You aren't here by accident, are you? She paused. Then, no. Trap. A message. For whom? The ones watching the broadcast feeds. He blinked slowly. You let them capture you. I gave them the illusion of control. Why? She looked at the wall where a faint red light blinked, one of the feed nodes she'd mapped during her walk to the arena. Because you can't teach fear. You show it. Outside, panic had begun to seep into the higher ranks. Guards filed reports with erratic language. Staring at walls. Talking to herself. Smiling when threatened. A few even requested reassignment. Security protocols were heightened. Liss's meal was pre-scanned, pre-measured, and served by drone. It didn't matter. She wasn't eating. She was timing. Every circuit in the vent system. Every guard rotation. Every sensor reset. The orb returned again, uninvited this time. You're planning something. I'm always planning something, Liss replied, tracing something into the floor with her boot. They believe they're in control. They believe a lot of things, she said. That humans evolved by mistake. That we're emotionally unstable. That we lash out because of insecurity. Are you saying that's not true? Oh, we're unstable all right, she said, eyes dark with amusement. But not like they think. We break rules, not under pressure, but because of it. That's not fragility. That's strategy. The orb made a strange whirring noise. You provoke uncertainty. No, she said. I cultivate it. A warning klaxon rang out across the cell block. Unscheduled alarm. Lights flickered. The orb twitched. That wasn't you? Not directly, Liss said. But it's the second wave. The prison systems rebooted. Guard doors stuck half open. Security footage glitched. Communication logs began auto-deleting. The feed room locked itself down without explanation. The AI core threw errors about impossible protocol strings. T'Arwael demanded answers. The techs had none. Reverse intrusion? Vruktal shouted. Negative, came the reply. No sign of digital entry. 7X whispered through the comm. It's not a virus. It's her implant. She's the vector. T'Arwael froze. Back in the cell, Liss tapped her neck. Biometric transmitter. Earth tech. Old school stuff, practically analog by your standards. But it's noisy. Enough for a listening ear to catch the frequency. What did you transmit? A wake-up call. To whom? The lights cut out. Her voice rang through the cell, soft but steel-edged. Everyone. Backup systems groaned. Emergency lights flickered red. Throughout the ship, doors opened or refused to close. Barracks went dark. The bridge lost orbital control for 3 minutes. It was long enough. Liz stood slowly. Time to go. Asher blinked up at her. Go where? Home. Eventually. She cracked her knuckles. But first, I have to finish the story. What story? The one they started when they mocked the injured soldier. She looked up toward the camera. They forgot what happens when you laugh at the monster in the woods. The feed cut to black. The emergency sirens began as a shriek, a high-pitched, artificial wail designed to inspire panic in everyone but the crew. The problem was, now even the crew was panicking. Lights flickered overhead in strobe-like spasms, draping the pristine corridors of the Dominion Pike in jittering red and white. At first, the disruptions were assumed to be a technical fluke. Power rerouting error. Standard overheat. But by the third full systems failure in under 15 minutes, someone finally admitted the impossible. The prison ship was under siege. From the inside, Sergeant Alyssa Vega stood in the now empty cell block. The door behind her split in two from a precisely timed pulse surge. Her hands were slick with the effort of rewiring a servo node barehanded, and her shoulder throbbed with the constant, dull ache of a joint still halfway dislocated. She blinked once at the flashing wall panel in front of her, watching the last lock on subdeck 12 disengage. Cute, she murmured. For a species that thinks failsafe means idiot-proof. Behind her, Asher stared at the open corridor, as though it were a mouth ready to swallow them. This shouldn't be possible. No, Liz said, flexing her fingers. But neither should I. The old alien's expression creased in thought. You were the Trojan horse. I was the bait, she corrected. The horse is still coming. He didn't ask what that meant. By now he knew better. Above them, chaos was no longer a threat. It had become the environment. On the command deck, General Teach Arwael braced against a console, barking orders that came out too loud and too fast, a sign of fear he didn't yet know he was displaying. The command staff couldn't access the AI spine. Every camera on the detention decks was down. Whole sectors of the ship refused to acknowledge input. Where is she? He growled. Vruktal stood stiffly beside him, arms folded, eyes glued to the schematic map blinking static at the center of the table. Gone. She cannot simply vanish. Vruktal's voice was low. She didn't vanish. She planned. This was staged from the moment she let herself get captured. She's one soldier. She's a human, Vruktal said, and for the first time, the word didn't sound dismissive. It sounded like an accusation. And we mocked her. In the medbay, DocSphere 7X had pulled away from the central data core, its glowing interface dimming as it processed the cascading flood of logic errors now ramming the ship's firewall like battering rams. Each came in at a slightly off angle, not enough to trip the alarms, but enough to break routines, one by one. She corrupted me, the orb muttered to itself. Not with code. With logic. It replayed the last exchange with her. You don't fight like a soldier. That's because I'm not just a soldier. I'm a lesson. And now, the lesson was unfolding in real time. Liz moved through the darkened corridors like she owned them. She had no weapon, no armor, no backup. Just a stolen access badge, a fractured rib, and decades of tactical obsession buried under a smile that, even now, she couldn't quite drop. Earth had taught her that fear was currency, but unpredictability was a weapon. Each motion was deliberate. She knew exactly which doors to jam, which surveillance loops to overwrite. It wasn't perfect. Improvised scripts and gritted teeth made up the difference, but the trick wasn't to overpower the system. It was to convince it to collapse under its own assumptions. At a junction, she paused to reroute 2 hallway seals, locking down a squad of enforcers without a shot fired. From the intercom, confused alien voices barked contradictions at one another. Who authorized Sector 9 lockdown? Emergency override, code 7215. Wait, that's Earth Command? What? That protocol hasn't existed for. Liz cut the line with a quiet smirk. You're catching on. At her side, Osher struggled to keep up, wheezing as they ducked into an unused storage alcove. Why not escape? He asked. Why not flee now, while the way is clear? Because I'm not done yet. She tapped the side of the wall, twice. A hatch opened. Inside, a data relay conduit, still live. Perfect. You're not trying to destroy them, Osher realized. You're trying to make them see. Liz grinned. Took you long enough. He looked at her, really looked. Why? Because the galaxy doesn't fear Earth yet, she said. And that makes it stupid. Stupidity gets people killed. Back in the command deck, 7X materialized via holofeed. Its voice had lost its usual detached tone. She's breached the relay hub. She's broadcasting something. THRWL turned to his communications officer. Cut the signal. We can't, the officer replied, pale under chitin. She's using our own command channels. Legacy ports we didn't even know existed. The general hissed. What is she transmitting? The screen at the center of the room flickered, then bloomed to life. There, in grainy black and white, was the security feed from the arena. Liz, standing over the Karthak corpse. Calm. Controlled. Efficient. Then another clip. Her dismantling a containment unit using nothing but a meal tray and part of her bed frame. Another. Her in her cell, speaking calmly to a floating AI orb. We don't escalate because we're angry. We escalate because we see 5 moves ahead. The feed cut. The screen went black. Then a single phrase scrolled across in Galactic Common. You mocked the Predator. Every ship with an uplink to the Dominion Pike received the same message. Liz turned from the relay panel, sweat on her brow, breathing uneven but steady. Message sent. Osher stared. That'll put a target on your entire species. Good, she said. Better a target than a question mark. They moved again. Time was short. From the shadows of the upper deck, Liz dropped 2 guards with surgical strikes, 1 pressure point, 1 dislocation. Neither died. That wasn't the message she wanted to send. Not yet. She slipped into the AI control center with Osher on her heels, sealing the door behind them. Security AI interface? She asked. Osher pointed. She walked up to the terminal, tapped into the backup core, and keyed in a sequence only Earth's Black Ops operatives would recognize. Her implant pinged. Connection established. Now we wait. Wait for what? For them to understand that I wasn't the only one watching. Out in deep orbit, cloaked vessels stirred. Earth Command's Ghost Fleet, listening since day 1, received her full payload. Coordinates. Ship schematics. Tactical weaknesses. And 1 high-priority confirmation. Earth's experimental Predator, unit operating as designed. Back aboard the Dominion Pike, THRYL lost control. Find her. Kill her. I want that human on a slab. Docsphere 7X floated to his shoulder. General, it said quietly, you should listen to the rest of her transmission. He turned. She said one thing, just before she uploaded the command. The screen blinked to life again. Liz, face close to the lens, voice calm and slow. If I'd wanted to escape, I'd be gone. If I'd wanted you dead, you'd be ghosts. I just needed you to see. Earth doesn't lose soldiers. It deploys assets. You thought I was the problem. But I'm just the prototype. Then a smile. Nothing more terrifying than a human smiling where no smile should be. The screen faded again. Back in the AI core, Liz watched her countdown reach 0. Now, she said, we go. They moved fast, slipping through the hull maintenance shafts. She'd mapped the route. She'd memorized it. Every angle. Every curve. Just in case. By the time the elite guards reached the relay hub, it was empty. All that remained was a scratched message in the wall metal. Run. On the bridge, THRYL trembled with rage. She made us look like fools. She didn't make you, Vruktal said, not meeting his eyes. You did that yourself. Alarms blared once more. Not internal. External. One of the enforcer frigates had gone dark. Then another. The Ghost Fleet had arrived. Not with weapons, yet, but with presence. Power. Precision. Liz didn't need to destroy the Dominion Pike. She'd already broken it. And the galaxy was finally watching. Space had a sound, if you knew how to listen. It wasn't the vacuum hum people imagined, or the eerie void poets romanticized. It was the pulse of systems resetting, of pressure seals gasping closed, of ion drives rebooting after a near-catastrophic AI lockdown. A stillness before decisions turned into action. And aboard the Dominion Pike, that silence was deafening. Sergeant Alyssa Vega stood in the hangar bay, a breeze of recycled oxygen brushing her sweat-soaked skin as the magnetic clamp hissed off the landing gear of the escape vessel she'd commandeered. Around her, alarms blared, guards screamed, and the whole prison ship rattled under its own weight, not from damage, but from confusion, from fear, from the creeping realization that everything they thought they controlled had been theater from the beginning. The stolen dropship's ramp descended with a mechanical groan. She tilted her head and waited. Footsteps followed. Asher appeared, hunched but moving, eyes still wide with awe and something that might have been reverence. "You sure this is the exit?" he asked, pausing near the vessel's open bay. "It's an exit," Liz said. "The one I want them to see." Beyond the hangar, across a dozen open feeds and 100 hushed alien comm channels, every sensor pointed at that platform. The galaxy was watching. Not just Enforcer Command. Not just the prisoners whispering, "Baba Yaga," behind trembling teeth. Every major faction tuned in once Earth's digital signature came blaring from a supposedly captured asset. And Liz knew it. This was an escape. This was an exfiltration with the subtlety of a shotgun to the face. From the high command bridge, General Thrwal watched her on the primary monitor, the camera shaking slightly as the deck trembled under auxiliary power. Sweat, if you could call the fluid oozing from his brow sweat, slid down his scaled face. Behind him, Lieutenant Vruktal was silent, arms locked behind his back, no longer smug. "You should have killed her in the arena," Thrwal muttered, voice tight, sharp. Vruktal didn't reply. Thrwal turned to 7X, the AI's main interface flickering beside him. "Can we stop her?" "No," 7X replied, a strange tone in its usually neutral voice. "She isn't here to be stopped. She's here to be remembered." Liz walked slowly toward the dropship, every step measured. Calculated. She wasn't hurrying. Predators didn't hurry. Asher limped beside her, glancing back toward the steel corridors. "They'll hunt you after this." "I'm counting on it," she said. "And Earth?" She smirked. "Earth's not worried. They already planned for this 20 moves ago." "You were part of that plan?" "I'm part of the illusion," she said. "The galaxy thinks humans are fractured, emotional, erratic." She paused. "Let them think that. Then we bleed them dry with strategy dressed up as chaos." The hum of the ship system snapped online as she stepped into the cockpit. The vessel was small, an old Earth-compatible hybrid built during early alliance treaties. No AI. No guidance nanny. Manual. Crude. Perfect. "Coordinates?" asked the terminal. She keyed them in with one hand while cleaning blood from under her fingernails with the other. Her movements were casual, but beneath them simmered cold discipline. Not far behind her, a group of enforcer guards breached the hangar bay doors. Their rifles snapped up, then hesitated. Some recognized her. Others didn't need to. She wasn't pointing a weapon. But they didn't take a step forward. That, to her, was victory. She glanced over her shoulder, made brief eye contact with one of them. A young reptilian officer, eyes wide, breath shallow. "Don't," she said softly. He froze. "You wouldn't survive the attempt. And your blood would be wasted." No threats. No shouting. Just truth, delivered with a surgeon's blade. Behind the officers, Vruktal appeared. Unarmed. He walked forward alone, jaw clenched. "You think this makes your species feared?" he asked. "One woman?" One act of sabotage. I think, she said. This makes us understood. Fear comes later. After you start checking every vent for the sound of footsteps. You broke a ship. That's not war. She smiled. You're right. That's a demo. Vruktal took another step. His face was twitching. Not with rage. With uncertainty. Like a predator sniffing something it didn't recognize in its territory. You'll never win, he muttered. We don't win, she said, stepping onto the ramp. We survive. And we make sure the other side never sleeps again. Above them, the monitors shifted. A last broadcast flickered to life. A deliberate push from her implant to the ship's core systems, using her neural signature as an override. One last piece of theater. The screen lit with a montage. Earth's wars, rendered in alien-filtered feeds. Soldiers crawling through toxic trenches with broken legs. Engineers building weapons from scrap during an orbital blackout. Civilians hurling stones at armored dropships. No music. No narration. Just raw footage. Then her voice, echoing like a whisper under the noise. We aren't strong because we're the biggest. We aren't smart because we read the most. We're dangerous because we don't know when to quit. Because we evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every day. Because we smile while bleeding and laugh while planning your funeral. And because when you mock us, when you put us in cages, you only remind us that we were born behind bars. We call it childhood. The screen cut to black. Thrwal staggered back in his command chair, mouth open, throat dry. Shut it down, he whispered. Too late, said 7X. The feed went viral. You showed the galaxy what Earth hides behind its politics. The enforcer guards backed away from the dropship. Liz didn't say another word. She didn't need to. She stepped inside. The ramp closed. The ship's engines lit blue. Inside the cockpit, she activated the pilot assist, then turned to Osher. You don't have to come with me. He looked out the viewport as the hangar bay began to recede. You gave the galaxy a ghost. I want to see what it does next. Suit yourself, she said. Just don't touch the red lever. That one makes things explode. He blinked. She smiled. Kidding. Are you? No. The dropship punched forward, sliding past the enforcer patrol routes as the chaos below kept their systems blind. Her escape hadn't been hidden, it had been obvious. Because that was the trick. Disappear in the center of the stage while everyone watches the shadows. As the stars stretched into elongated streaks, hyperspace grabbing the vessel in its claws, Osher finally turned to her. What now? She leaned back in the pilot's seat, cracked her knuckles. Now? She echoed. Now we let the stories spread. He studied her face. You think that's enough? Stories are how humans survive. And how we win. She paused, eyes narrowing slightly. Every tyrant, every warlord, every empire starts to unravel when their soldiers begin to fear what might be hiding in the dark. Silence settled again, warm and heavy. She pulled out a ration bar, bit off half, then grimaced. Still tastes like chalk. Osher looked at her. You were calm, even at the end. Why? Liz exhaled slowly. Because they think I'm the monster. And you're not. She turned to face him fully. Her voice dropped. I am the monster. Just not theirs. Far behind them, the Dominion Pike drifted off course, systems crippled, morale shattered. In time, the enforcers would recover. Rebuild. Regroup. But they'd never be the same. Every recruit would be shown the footage. Every officer would whisper the name with dread. Not just a title. Not just a codename. Baba Yaga. And far out in the cold night of space, on a forgotten backchannel frequency, Earth Command received a final transmission. Asset extracted. Phase 1 complete. Target. Galaxy perception. Status. Infiltrated. They read the report. They smiled. Because sometimes you don't win wars with fleets. Sometimes you win them with fairy tales. And humans are very good at telling stories.